Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. It's politics right through. In fact, right now, we're at a place where there's so many balls up in the air. First of all, let me introduce my guests. We've got Chief Dr. Fasi Yusuf. Thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Indeed, good morning. And sitting right next to him is Mr. Malaki Ugumadu. Both of them are lawyers. There are also many other things, but it is only the lawyer one that we need this morning. Okay. Good morning.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. On the other hand, Malaki is an activist. On the other hand,
I'm conservative. I'm conservative.
Well, you are a teacher, you are a communicator, and all of that. But, guys, Court of Appeal Sokoto Division has handed down its decision, and that is having been sued by the APC. And as far as Zamfara State is concerned, it does seem to me, going by all the headlines and the news, that the governorship candidate and all other elected candidates of APC have effectively been sacked. To the extent, and correct my language here because you guys are the lawyers, because as far as the court, as far as the law is concerned, no election took place.
You're
Because
speaking authoritatively.
I'm saying that, correct me if I'm wrong. So therefore, but issue, how did we arrive at, in the eyes of the law, an effective election didn't take place in Zamfara? Malaki, would you please like to start off with this? Because if the primaries were not right, correct, then there were no candidates that were presented to win or lose an election in the eyes of the law, right?
There's a popular aphorism in law, which is to the effect that you cannot place something on nothing, okay, and expect it to stand. Recall that it was in this Zamfara state election situation that we got to know prior to the elections that they didn't, APC in particular, didn't have candidates, essentially because they didn't meet up with the deadline for the submission of candidates for that election. But it turned out that they were able to organize themselves, and through the High Court ruling, they were allowed to field candidates before the election. Now, it is that decision of the High Court of Zamfara allowing them to field candidates for the election that was appealed against. And the Court of Appeal Sokoto Division yesterday took the view that there were a lot of technical legal anomalies with the decision of the lower court, in effect nullifying, upturning the decision of the High Court, which is precisely what where you want to land. That yes, in the eye of the law,
exactly,
if the exercise that produced the candidature for the election is nullified, it means the foundation upon which the candidates emerge does not exist. So for which reason it is now said that in the eye of the law, there was actually no election, even if INEC declared winners and handed over certificates of return.
It sounds very much like a technical issue. Let me come to you, Fasi. Now that it has been perhaps more lawyerly language has been used.
Yeah, I think I should give my own perspective.
Yes.
Yes, there was. Well, we won't say there was no election. Based on what we have seen, even though we've not had the opportunity to go through the full details of the judgment of the Court of Appeal, Sokoto Division.
It was a
unanimous
judgment.
I always like to read the whole length of it because you have what we call selective perception. And again, you know, the media, the agenda might be different from the others. So I want to see the full length of the judgment. But be that as it may, there was an election. What we can say, based on what we have read and what we've heard on the radio and television, we might say that the candidates of APC that were presented ought not to have been presented based on that judgment. That tell us that there was no election, or there were other candidates for other parties and other. So we want to see how it will be interpreted. And in any case, we still expect that it will still go to the last bus stop, which is the Supreme Court. Which is the Supreme Court. But for now, we can't say there's a lacuna because we still have up to May.
Yeah, okay.
May.
Okay.
And I believe that if we talk about judicial activism, the Supreme Court might want to give it an expeditious hearing.
Two points. Let me stay with you, Fasi. 2 points. Number one, the judgment was unanimous. You know, the three of them, the lead judgment being delivered by...
Even if it was split, as long as the majority said this much.
Exactly. But I just said, by the way, as you said, it doesn't matter. Apart from Justice Tijani Abubakar and Jamilu Tukur, there was also Justice Tom Yakubu. Now, they all held that the lower court failed in its duty to properly evaluate the evidence before it, one. And then the other point I want you to also mop up as you comment on this is that they also all agreed that this judgment would be a, quote, bitter lesson, unquote, for political parties as they ought to follow legitimate guidance and guidelines and rules.
Well, there's nothing that can take the place of the rule of law. I mean, in essence, what they're telling the political parties is that they should adhere to the rule of law and they should adhere to their own constitution. You remember the national chairman of APC saying that willy-nilly, APC will fill the candidates. And you remember it was about 2 or 3 days to the election that the High Court of Guso, Zamfara, gave that a ruling that APC was free to fill the candidates. And now that has been upturned. So we want to see what will happen at the APS court.
So how do we now proceed?
Yeah.
How do we proceed from here, Malak? Let me bring this to you. What does this mean effectively? Fazi objected and has explained why when I said the Court of Appeal apparently has sacked. He took exception to the language. It was more delicately phrased when you loyally people put loyal language on it. But long story short, whoever thought he was governor there, according to these rulings, now, how do we proceed from here?
Okay.
What are the options available to APC?
Now, our electoral jurisprudence is not just growing, it's getting consolidated, albeit by default. There are a lot of malfeasance and transgressions along the line that has benefited from judicial interpretations. Otherwise, this is not a very simple, straightforward situation. Now, but we all know that the Electoral Act is the extant law regulating election processes in Nigeria. You have the bigger grown norm, which is the Constitution. There's also the guidelines, which introduces the rules of engagement, so to speak. If there is an appeal within 21 days of this judgment, the way it goes is that nothing happens regarding who has assumed that position until the determination of the appeal. But like I said, it is not a very straightforward one, because what the law envisaged in that section that I'm quoting, and I'm specifically referring to section 143, subsection 1 and 2. In that particular section, it envisaged a situation in which the successful candidate, the declared winner, is already sitting as a governor. A clear example of that is what you have in Osun State. Recall that immediately after the judgment of the Court of Appeal, the next morning, we heard that an appeal had been filed against that. By reason of the section that I have quoted now, the governor will remain in power. First, within the 21 days that he has to file the notice of appeal, and subsequently pending the determination of that appeal. Because you asked the question, how does it progress?
Yes. And you've made the distinction between Osun and where the governor has been sworn in and is in place. This is different.
This is different.
Because he's a governor in waiting.
It's elect. It's declared.
Yes, governor elect.
Yes, not yet sworn in. So I'm not too sure whether it is a direct application
Fassi,
of
do
that
you want to
section.
come in there?
Yes,
Do you have a different any idea? on that?
Let me allow my brother to land.
Perhaps,
okay.
Perhaps the way I want to learn
Okay.
is to say that, look, what has come out of this judgment is clear. Namely that political parties are not above the law, even if they are ruling political parties. Once you take steps at variance with not just the extant electoral act, but the constitution, even the constitution of your own party, you stand the risk of forfeiting everything if it is challenged. And this is what has happened. Those who were dissatisfied with the emergence of those who were fielded decided to contest the propriety of what has happened. And at the end of the day, the party, as a party, is suffering it and is paying very huge price for that. So, in effect, as we make the mistakes that we're making, as we travel in the whole trajectory, parties must continually, particularly the leadership of these parties, you could decree that this should happen. But if you do it at variance with the law, at variance with your own guideline of the Electoral Act, at variance with the constitution of your own party, you are likely going to...
All of these things can come into consideration. In fact, will come into consideration.
And the court was clear that, look, the lower court that enabled this party to field their candidate suffered serious hiccup in evaluating the evidence that was returned. In short, there is also another aspect of that they challenge the jurisdiction of the court of even, entertaining the matter in the first place.
Fassi, that aspect of it, the failure to properly evaluate the evidence against it, upon which this whole action was premised now at the higher court.
I was not privileged. I was not opportune to see the evidence being referred to. Otherwise, I will to make my own comment. We cannot be presiding over the judgment of Court of Appeal. All we can do is just analyze or perhaps...
Which is what we're doing.
It's already in the public. It's already out there.
The other point I want to make, for example now...
It's already out there.
Yes,
but that particular...
For example now, I'm sure the issue,
negligent.
the aspect we'll be going to is that would that be a constitutional crisis? Would that be a lacuna come May 29? I'm sure that's what you want to know.
Okay, you could look at it from that
but
point of
again,
view.
I do not know. I mean, I'm not in a position to say whether the appeal dealt with consequential orders, whether perhaps in the absence of APC being barred from fielding candidates, should the election be nullified, or should the next candidate assume that position, or what were the orders given? I don't know. But when
that area is still very hazy.
Yes, but when that's why I said
very
we've not been opportune to see the details of the...
Because the questions that could also follow is that should it go to the next highest vote?
No, the law is clear about that. The Electoral Act speaks up to what happens where you are talking about disqualification. If election is annulled on account of disqualification, if election is annulled because of invalid vote, the law is clear as to what happens.
Well, this one is a special...
that's why I say...
So we want to see what happens at the Supreme Court. But in case the matter is unresolved by May 29, is the Speaker that will assume the acting governorship.
Well, okay.
So
That's the hierarchical situation.
It is the Speaker who haven't been sworn in is number 3 in the state.
When some commentators may take the position that in the eyes of the law, no election took place in that place because
election took place now.
There's a difference between. I mean, as lawyers, when you say in the eye of the law, what you presuppose is that whereas it seemed as though that happened, but indeed it did not happen in the eye of the law.
Because processes were not fulfilled.
That is the part
that I want you to address.
No, the aspect I'm saying is this. So yes, for the APC, yes, but for other parties, there were elections.
It doesn't detract from the fact that if a court,
if there's no election
if a
now,
superior court comes out and say, look, yes, it seemed as if there was an election, but sitting as adjudicator, sitting as the judex, there was no election because nothing of such happened in the eye of the law.
Because where he started from that I'd like you to comment on is that in law, you guys say you can't put something on nothing.
And expect it to stand.
Yes. So,
Yes.
So the basis upon which the candidates emerged was predicated on the decision of the lower court. Now, the Court of Appeal has lampooned the lower court to say that you erred profoundly in first not evaluating the evidence before you, and two, that you didn't even have the jurisdiction to entertain this matter the way you did.
And then added the commentary that this will be a bitter lesson.
Like he said, they still reserve the right to appeal against it. But in the eye of the law, as of today, it is assumed.
Which is the only reason why their lordships could go the way they went.
Listen, my own understanding of it is that, yes, in the eye of the law, APC had no candidates. That's not to say that the other parties did not have candidates. So it's now for the court to tell us, even though we might have our own different opinions or different views on it, that, look, whether APC filled their candidates or not, or the APC ought not have filled their candidates. The other parties filled their candidates.
Correct.
So it is for us to decide that. But we cannot say there was no election in Zamfara. There was election. But APC,
you're not including in the eyes of the law.
In the eye of the law, there was election. It's just that APC ought not to have filled their candidates according to the court.
In the eye of the law, there was no primary election for
That's
APC.
for APC. That's the same thing we're saying.
Okay, that's the distinction you are making.
When you say there was no election, we said there was no election. That was election.
Okay.
The court didn't go into...
No, because I understand what you're saying. We're limiting ourselves to APC, the ruling APC.
So if APC is out,
so
what stands?
Aha. Well,
that's where we are.
That's exactly where we are now, trying to find out.
Because even 5 days to the election, nobody knew that APC were going to fill any candidates.
2 days. It was actually 2 days to the election.
Okay. Sorry, please. You just wanted to make the distinction that in the eyes of the law that we're talking about refers only to APC.
I said, you remember it affected the gubernatorial and National Assembly elections. And I think also National Assembly elections.
Yes,
not
in short,
elections.
All other APC candidates.
So the point I'm making now is that, yes, in the eye of the law, as far as the court was concerned, there was no election on the part of APC, but other political parties had the election.
But at the same time, you also posited the position that, look, if APC is out of it, then, quite frankly, what's left, apart from the...
So that's why I was talking about the consequential order. So I said, arising from that, what follows, normally, if APC ought not have participated, then it was assumed that other parties participated and that whoever came second, that's a this thing, will not take the position. Okay.
A call has come in. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for calling in. Please go ahead.
I greet you and your guest.
Okay.
Please, maybe with your guest now or at a later time, please, I would like to address this issue, speaking of the judiciary becoming another political party in Nigeria. I think today we have APC, PDP, and judiciary. The issue here is very important. I know they are talking to the issue from the point of law, and law is always an act, right or wrong, always. But there are some times that some issues need to be taken beyond court, so to say, maybe from the point of political parties, to, let me say, just educating among people to mediate and settle matters. We have Zamfara, for example, and we have River State. These places are volatile places that I think the judiciary is not just educating, or they are taking sides. So we need to start to look at that matter very seriously. That is the judiciary now a political party, or are they educating between parties to settle matters in the interest of the nation? These are silent issues that should not be brought to the public. What is the actual role of the judiciary Is it another political party or is it an independent party that is resolving matters between people?
Okay.
Because there's serious influence of money in our politics. Everybody is being paid and anyone is paid
well,
here and there.
yeah,
Please, let us
you've
look
gone
at
very,
that
very
matter
far.
very seriously.
Thank you very much for calling.
Let me try to
Sure.
respond to. Now, I think it's a very valid concern that is showing. Now, the former acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, about 6 months ago, gave a directive to all the courts, particularly the Federal High Court and State High Court, restraining them or directing that they should henceforth not grant ex parte applications with respect to election matters. In short, I personally suffered one of such, because we had brought, I was representing one of the candidates of APC in Delta State, and we had approached the High Court of Federal Capital Territory seeking such relief. The court literally dodged the application and we were on it until the primaries held and was gone. Secondly, you would find that the same way we quarrel about the militarization of elections, there is also, at the moment, what has been termed the tribunalization of elections.
Okay, one moment, please.
Yes.
I'm going to come straight back to you. Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Yori.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
And I greet your, panelists. And I want to take it from where Ugumadu stopped.
Okay.
My name is Cyprian. I'm calling from Ikotun.
Okay.
I want to start from where Mr. Ugumadu stopped.
Okay. Carry on, please.
Tribunalization of the polity. What we actually need, we need to do what I call reform of the politicians, reform of the judiciary, and reform virtually of the country itself. Because if you look at the way these politicians are behaving, if anyone is aggrieved, he runs to the court. And the court will not even check whether the man is telling lies or is telling the truth. They will get ex parte motion. And because of the ex parte motion, the court will adjudicate, and that will cause problem along the line. I think we should be up and doing in this case. Mm-hmm. Let the lawyers sit together and stop this thing they are doing in their jurisprudence. If a politician comes to them, let them first find out the truth from him before they adjudicate on it, because that will be setting us back. How can an election be held in Zamfara, and in the eyes of the law, it seems as if election was not held? And in the case of Zamfara, as I'm saying, you will now probably want to give the vote casted in favor of Zamfara to the second. And besides that, the law has given us that the political parties have the right to flip candidates. You see the whole thing model up.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in, Cyprian. Appreciate your call. Did you want to come in?
Yes.
The matter of tribalization,
no, the
tribunalization of the law, and then somebody alleging that...
I didn't conclude on that part.
Yes, I'll come back to you,
Yeah,
please.
I didn't conclude on it.
The issue in this country is that, according as per our constitution, the judiciary or judicial is the third arm of government. It is there to interpret the laws. It is there to allow people to come forward to ventilate their views instead of resorting to self-help or jungle justice.
Okay.
So if anybody feels aggrieved, yes, the constitution of the political parties are there, but at times there are transgressions, at times there are overloading, at times there are people who believe that they should play godfatherism.
Okay. So when Cyprian said you agree, you run to the courts, that is precisely
yes, and again, when you come to lawyers, no lawyer will just bring a case. A lawyer will evaluate the facts a client is presenting. If he believes that, look, this is not what going to court, it's the responsibility of a lawyer to advise the client. If it is an issue of a mediation, yes, mediation will be coming and not the rest. But the point is that...
Which means that the lawyer takes time to
Of course, I mean,
evaluate the thing.
of course, how can you just rush to court? Unless you're going to make a mockery of yourself or going to make a nonsense of yourself.
One moment, let me get another comment coming in. Good morning, thank you for calling in. Bobby. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning, Bobby.
Good morning, sir. I just want to make one point clear, sir. I totally disagree with my uncle on the black cap. The truth of the matter is, it has already happened, and I actually blame the judiciary on the issue of Zamfara. Had it been they knew if this thing was going to blow up, they shouldn't have given that judgment. So what we should expect from them is the people, the party that actually came second should actually take the day. It's as simple as that. APC, we know, don't have any candidate. Why did they actually came into the election? It's as simple as that, sir. Thank you very much, and may God keep blessing you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Please continue. The man in the black cap, Dr. Yusuf.
As I was saying, you see, this is why most people don't understand, or perhaps do not really. They have an axe to grind with lawyers. They believe that everything a lawyer rushes to court is not in every case. There's a lawyer. But there's some, most lawyers will tell you that, look, we are convinced that what we're handling is the best for our client. And in any case, the day you see two lawyers agreeing on a particular issue, then what's the point going to court? It's because there's a disagreement, there are issues to be settled. It's issue 1 for determination, issue 2 for determination, and 3 and like that.
And people should stop confusing morals and the law.
I
think that's another aspect.
There are two different things.
And so people feel that, look, this case is morally not good.
Again,
now, why would
say
there
that
be any lawyer to take
parties,
it? That's what he was saying, emotionally.
The political parties, yes, they have their own constitutions, they have their own whatever. But at the same time, it must not be outside, as my colleague said, outside the constitution of the country, outside the laws of the country. Exactly. So anything that is inconsistent with the constitution is not avoided.
Will give way. Good morning. Thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. This is...
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you.
All right. Uncle Yori, yesterday I said that the judiciary was out for a hidden agenda. It sounded funny.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go back to Dubai. Now. But there's no Dubai involved in this one.
How can the judiciary allow elections to hold in a state where a party won all the gubernatorial, national election, presidential, and House of Assembly seats, and the other party want to surreptitiously come through the back door to become the ruler of that state? What kind of scenario do you envisage will happen in that state? The judiciary in this country should not be allowed to plunge us into disarray. Somebody should please warn them that this agenda they are trying to carry out is dangerous, and they should not embark on it. I'm telling Mr. Marco, the lawyer on the right, that he should go and tell NBA this is what some of us are saying.
But Mr. George,
yes,
they say when they're in the temple of justice, they concern themselves only with the facts before it, and they can't do anything else really.
No.
What facts?
Okay.
What facts are more than what the people want and what is beneficial to the people of that state? Those people voted massively for that party. There is no opposition party that won a seat or a singular election in the series of elections that are held in that state. Is it the wishes of the people that should rule the state or the wishes of the judges?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Please,
Thank you.
Can I enter some caveats here? First,
you're running into a problem again.
First is
that,
please, let me make a few clarifications because it's becoming a bit confusing, listening to the viewers. First is to establish the fact that election itself is a contest. This contest, as it is, doesn't usually end in the polling booth. In short, it doesn't start in the polling booth and doesn't end there. A society regulated by law must continually find a way of resolving disputes and conflicts that arise from their interaction. This is precisely why the judiciary is there. The judiciary does not just sit and begin to dispense justice. They wait until cases are submitted to them, and then they take a position. That position becomes the judicial position with respect to the dispute that arose out of the contest that we are talking about.
And it is
So I
expected
make
to be
this
an
point
unbiased position.
impartial.
And should you not be satisfied on that count, then you can go to the next higher court.
The way Section
Where
30,
possible.
the way Section 30,
If you not be satisfied on that count, then you can go to the next higher court.
the way Section
Where
30,
possible.
the way Section 36 is framed, Section 36 of the Constitution is framed, is that in the determination of the rights and privileges of every Nigerian, including politicians, there shall be the judiciary that is constituted in a way as to guarantee its independence and impartiality. So that is given. I am making the point that, look, there is no better way of resolving disputes that are naturally arise from the context of politicians or even businessmen other than a resort to court. If you promote self-help or instances in which the politicians themselves will not have an opportunity to go to this court that you are complaining about, the result is that they will resort to violence, which is precisely what you are witnessing maybe in Rivers State. Many of those who decapitate their opponents and kill don't believe that the judiciary can resolve their differences. And so they take the laws into their hands. So we must continually promote, like my colleague did say, the fact that disputes arising from this contest must necessarily end in the judiciary. That is the only way you can organize a civilized society and get a position that will be beneficial to not just the contestants, but also the state as an entity.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for calling in and indeed for holding on. Good morning, Comrade
Good
Ayo.
morning. Good morning, Oguyori.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to our guest in studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oguyori, let the truth be told here. Whatever happened in Zamfara to the All-Progressive Congress is self-inflicted. Because I don't see why we cannot sit down and resolve issues amicably. What are they fighting for? If you want to start with it, why can't you just sit down and say, okay, do we go for a primary, either direct or indirect, or sit down and have a consensus? But because of our selfish interest, we want to impose ourselves on the people, not because we want to serve them, but because we want to serve our pockets. That is what is playing out in Zamfara State. So whatever happens in Zamfara State to the All-Progressive Congress is self-inflicted. But the question I want to ask, I don't understand. This issue, can't it go up to the Supreme Court? Is it stopping at the appeal court, or is it going up to the Supreme Court?
Thank you very much for calling in.
That has been said earlier.
Because
That,
we are the appeal
that
court
the bus stop,
and the only other place to
the
go.
bus stop and the apex court is the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
And that what we are doing now is just to analyze the situation on ground. It is not the last bus stop.
At all. It
Yes.
can be.
It cannot be.
But
and we said
the only other bus stop in this case is the Supreme Court.
Yes. And we said in case all these issues are not resolved by May 29, and once the speaker is sworn in, he becomes the acting governor.
Well, yeah. That would be an interesting, because that is indeed the.
That is one scenario.
That is.
The other is that it could also be that once it is established that the political party that won ought not to have been declared as the winner, in which case the court, like they have done now, says that there was no election in the first place. Then there is yet other political parties that contested the election. And I think that is partly why the debate is already on. That yes, you could imagine that maybe the PDP that came second should, assume those positions. But many of them too did not satisfy the spread in terms of the requirement. They didn't meet the constitutional spread that they ought to be able to, assume. So it's a bit convoluted, and
That's why I said, my brother is just coming back to me now, because from what I've seen in Zamfara, it is going to be difficult for any other political party, unless perhaps, I don't know how the court is going to resolve, the Supreme Court is going to resolve the whole issue. But if it's not resolved today, now we're talking about having 2 tours I mean, at least 25% in 2/3 of the local government. So are we having that on ground? And what about the House of Assembly? What's going to be the composition? And that's why I said, look, it's not to prevent a constitutional lacuna.
This is why you brought up the whole matter of consequential orders.
Others, yes, okay, if I were the lawyer under that case, apart from appealing, I also ask for consequential orders. Now, okay, if we fail, what should happen?
Even if the reliefs, even if there are no express
prayers
for consequential orders, courts in circumstances that are deserving ought to give consequential orders.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hello.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Abubakar from you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bubaka. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I want to, because this people want to different to others. Why? Because in the general election in Adamawa State, court ruling, primary election was not conducted in Adamawa State for APC at General House of Representatives election. So the court ordered decided to issue certificate of return to PDP who comes second in the general election. So judges now because it's coming now. So judges the political party in Nigeria so that our political parties or those who hold political parties in Nigeria will serve as deterrents to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Bubaka. That call was a bit, it wasn't the cleanest that it could be. So I'm afraid, not unless you heard, it was a very difficult call.
The little I heard was that he said in Adamawa State, the APC candidate that was fielded ought not to have been fielded, and the court declared that the PDP candidate,
which is what we have,
to take his place.
So could that be a precedent?
Because it's a possibility.
It's one of the possibilities.
It may not be a precedent because maybe the court that declared that could be an inferior court, and again, even if it's for a coordinate jurisdiction, the other court is not bound to follow that. Unless it's superior court.
But the one thing that seems to be coming out is when we go, never mind INEC, even we the people that through our parties.
I want to mind INEC.
Now, I'm just leave that one aside. I'm saying that there are those who are saying that the politicians themselves, the way they go about their quest, leaves a lot to be desired and constitute these problems.
The stakes are quite monumental.
So the stakes are high, but are they higher than in other places where elections are considered?
That's the point we have established.
Yes.
That look, it could suit you. It could be convenient to political parties to decide to conduct themselves contrary to established norms, established laws, established guidelines. But you could do that at your own risk.
At your own peril.
At your own peril. In the sense that whereas you may have the moment, seize that moment, do all the things you want to do, if you are challenged successfully at that,
it could undo everything.
All of what you have done will come to nothing. That is why we say that in the eye of the law, nothing happened. Not that there was no...
Yes, not that there was no activity, but because of the way we sort of have regulated society. Good morning and thank you for calling in. Jide?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, please, Uncle Folare, I just want to make this contribution to this program that the wish of the people should be respected most times. Because if you look at this case critically, people voted massively for those who won the election, and that was the APC. Now, if it is cancelled and given to the opposition, what do you think will happen to those who have voted? Then we have a case like that sometimes ago in Kogi State. I'm actually from Kogi State, where Falike and Audu won election. And those who are even ruling the state today, they are not in the picture when the election was carried out. So please, we have to be very careful the way we balance this thing, because people voted for those they think can represent them properly. And when the opposition hijack power, or those who were not really not really campaign, what do you think will happen?
Okay.
They will become lawless and they will never respect the people in any way. So the law should try to balance this. It's about the wish of the people most times, not just because somebody has to sabotage an effort and please just look deeply into this. I don't have any final say. Okay, but you have to look into this.
Thank you very much for calling.
I wish Yori would be part of the Supreme Court.
Thank you very much for this. You know, but the point he makes flows from the one we were making before the call came in, that the way the politicians conduct themselves, and you guys have explained, you gentlemen have explained that, look, people have to be meticulous. Politicians, you have to be meticulous because it can come back and bite you very, very badly.
The politics is a game, but that game will be within the ambits of the rules of that game. That is a simple fact. But
when people talk, as one of our viewers has called in and talk about the tribunalization, you know, of elections, do you think there's any?
I used that phrase, but I didn't quite land. I'm saying that, look, I think the concern of the people now is that there is very huge interference with that effort to identify the sovereign will of the people. Not in the polling units now, but in the courts. And that has gradually begun to give some serious concern. We have seen up to, and it didn't start today. You remember the Amechi case. Amechi was somebody who didn't, as it were, campaign, and yet became the governor of that state for 8 years. That judgment of the Supreme Court was thoroughly criticized. I remember by Chief Ganifa even shortly before he passed on. Now, the point is that in evaluating all of this situation, and I think that's the emphasis that the last caller was trying to make, we must continually remain focused on what the will of the people is. Because if they don't get that from the polling unit, and you go and thwart it from the judgment of the court, you may also have to deal with the consequences of that.
It's a controversial point. The will of the people. I understand.
Versus the rule of law.
Versus the rule of law. Good morning. Thank you for holding on.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir. This is Ogundare Papalola from Lagos.
Okay, Mr. Ogundare, good morning.
In respect to what Mr. Jide said earlier, you see, the fault is not from the people, but from the party in general.
Okay.
Because sometimes when the law says something and you refuse to apply, it's not the people that voted, but the problem is from the party that refused to fill the candidate at the right time, which they didn't comply with the law that is being established by the House of Assembly in general.
Okay.
So next time, it will give them a lesson to learn more on how to comply with the rules being guided by the law established for electoral process.
Okay. All right.
So it is left for the parties to re-amend on their way of doing things in order for us to, move along with the electoral process and the law.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Ogundare. So, but going back again, because he's making a similar point to people, you can't be too finicky when it comes to adhering to all the material particulars of any regulation, especially if it concerns you. Now, I don't know, well, it remains to, maybe when we sort of investigate it, we'll find out the basis upon which this appeal will go to the Supreme Court, because you had said that if there is an appeal, and that's because you were being correct, there doesn't have to be an appeal. So if there happens to be an appeal, I wonder what since
the issues will be.
Yes. Because it has already been said that at the court, maybe that is something that will be determined, that you guys at the lower court did not, properly, evaluate the evidence before you. So
yes, there are many ways. There are many ways. If you are filing an appeal, you have to read the judgment thoroughly. And you have to evaluate and
understand that the laws were applied to
and the issues addressed in the judgment, and therefore you now to see whether there are some lacuna or some loopholes in the judgment that could be explored or exploited, and you have to place the issues for determination before the Supreme Court, that perhaps the Court of Appeals directed itself, did this thing, or did this, or did that, and that the Court of Appeals ought not to have done this, ought not to have done that.
So with that, you get all of that from a very close scrutiny of the judgment.
Yes.
Good morning, and thank you for holding on. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Yeri.
Thank you very much for calling in. Good morning.
Good morning to your other guests there.
Yes, Mr. Omar. Thank you.
Good morning.
First time caller, I would like to contribute to this your discussion.
We'd like to hear from you.
Quite a number of callers seems to be blaming the judiciary for the judgment it passed. But is it possible to build something on nothing? Because ab initio, the party did not follow its own rules. And this was very made clear by the two officers that went to Zamfara to conduct the primaries. Therefore, if they didn't follow their own guidelines, I don't see them laying claims to participating in this election. However, the point raised by the two gentlemen there, I think this is a situation that will call for doctrine of necessity. Since the other parties did not meet the 25 that they are supposed to meet.
Yeah.
So notify everything and let all the parties go back and partake in this election.
Okay. Okay. All
For
right.
for the APC, they can't build something on nothing. And for the gubernatorial that did not meet up with the required number, then the judiciary too has cajoled itself in the situation that it cannot wriggle itself out of. So this is my take. I think the two lawyers there can add something to it. We involve the doctrine of necessity.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Omar. First of all, I'm sure I was wondering if you were a lawyer yourself. You started out from, he said something first, then he said ab initio, then he ended with doctrine of necessity, and then he said the lawyers can add more to what I'm saying. But I think it just goes along the trajectory that we have adopted, that we have to be very, very careful.
And circumspect.
We can't just be doing things any old how.
Yes. I mean, the 2019 general elections will have taught the various political parties and politicians the need to adhere to their own constitution and to know that the rule of law is supreme and that the constitution of this country must be adhered to willy-nilly. See, if there are laws, the laws are meant to be obeyed. You see, the paradoxical thing
Even if you make them yourself.
The paradoxical thing about this country is that we'll be challenging the judiciary, not being alive to its responsibilities. At the same time, issues are brought to the judiciary. They're asking the judiciary to depart from the path of constitutionalism.
By this whole matter of
now,
the people's need.
Now, move towards sentiments or populism.
But, and this is, Malaki, maybe take a stab at this. Whereas I understand perfectly what Fasti just said, rules are rules. And sometimes it leads to that whole matter about the law being an ass, But still, it's probably better to have it the way it does. But surely, since judgments are not for concrete walls, it's for human beings, it's for good orderly something of society, maybe when people are calling in and saying that they should be very, very concerned with what the people wanted, is there much in there? Just hold that thought, please. I understand that someone else is on the line. Good morning, and thank you for holding on. Mr. Lawal.
Good morning. This is Mr. Lawal calling from the
morning, Mr. Lawal. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry for keeping you waiting.
Okay. What is happening in Zamfara is self-inflicted pain from the APC. I don't think there is discipline enough in their party. That's why you have party hierarchy. They were supposed to cut the two factions down, let them sit down and discuss about it. Politics is all about sharing position. You can give the Mara faction the ministerial position and let the other factions to have some other. So they should not share people. The judiciary has done their job. They give the judgment based on what is on ground.
Okay.
So this thing is coming from BPC is just about non-discipline. That's what is happening basically to me. The judiciary should be out of this.
Okay.
But the people are the receiving end. People that went out massively as early as 30 a.m. to vote.
Okay.
Too bad.
All right. Well,
the APC should settle it from that party. They have the president, they have the party chairman, they have the national leader. What are they there for before this thing gets to this stage?
I think it's rather
Thank
late
you.
now.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Lawal.
It's rather late now. The APC cannot go into any accord or perhaps into any negotiation with its members because the issues are already before the court. And then what are they going to do? I mean,
that's why that
because
judge said that this would be a bitter pill.
Yes, it's a bitter pill. Yeah, they have to swear.
All political parties.
They have to swallow it.
The caller emphasized that they needed to have taken steps before getting to this point. Yes. And I think that's the takeaway. Coming to your question.
In closing.
That question sought to know what should be our priority between the sovereign will of the people and then the position of the courts. Look, it cannot be disputed that even the court itself and the state itself are created for the well-being of the people. In short, there is a very important aspect of the Constitution that emphasizes the essence of government itself. And the court is part of government. So I believe that because we are dealing with a contest which envisages some disputation, some contestations, this is precisely why we are seeing the various ramifications of this whole process. Otherwise, an election is supposed to be an election that throws up the winner and the loser. But because it is a contest and people are determined to assess power, they continue with that same contest even when they ought to stop. And this is where the judiciary is invited to be part of. But by and large, we are better off with judicial intervention other than maybe military coup or people resorting to violence and killing themselves.
Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Uncle Yori. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Thank you, Uncle Yori.
Yes.
I just want to disagree with the last caller. He said the problem is not judiciary. Who gave the first judgment that nullified that said APC cannot contest? The judiciary again now said, okay, they can contest and they should go ahead and contest. Is it not the same judiciary? To me, I believe judiciary is the major problem here. Whether whoever comes that is a problem, let us attack it. This is the truth and it's a law. We must oppose to the rule of law. There is no way you give judgment today. Another court will say, what you did is a mistake here, and they will tell me ordinary man different terminology here and there. The problem is judiciary. If they cannot contest, they do not contest. Even they are the president, they have everything, they cannot contest. Let there be punishment for them. If they have done that, we will have this problem. Judiciary cannot remove their hand there. They cause the whole thing. Thank you very much, my uncle.
Thank you very much for calling in. So you heap the blame decidedly on the judiciary. Maybe you'll also take into consideration what Malachi just explained, that, look, we do need an arbiter in society for contestations where both parties see it differently.
We both said it.
We have to have somebody that says, fine, this is what has happened, and this is our decision, and this is what we're taking out of it, and so this is where it lies. This is where justice lies. I suppose that's the last point, that the arbiter who says to us, this indeed is where justice lies, that is the pill that often is bitter and difficult to swallow.
And the other point, finally, is that the judiciary under NJC, National Judicial Council, has a way of monitoring its employees.
Okay. So
its members.
Well,
so whatever judgment that is given, they have a way of monitoring whether it actually follow due process of the law,
whether the right thing was done.
There was a miscarriage of justice.
Which the courts can't accept, because that's what the courts are all about, right?
Except that those are post-mortem activities.
Of course.
The danger would have been caused. In short, in one of those cases, the PDP petitioned one of the judges that gave an ex parte injunction to the same NJC Now, if it's an entirely volatile environment, that would have, gone up in flames before you begin
quickly run away now. Thank you very much, Mr. Malaki Ugumadu, and thank you, Chief Dr. Fasi Yusuf, for your perspectives. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.